Dili Uzubakun. Today on the program, group urges desperate northern aspirants for Senate presidency to emulate Senator Sani Musa on ethno-religious consideration. I'll be hanging out with Gani Kairi Balogun and Adewale Adeoye. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us, gentlemen. Happy Easter. Happy Easter. Wale Adeoye, that's the day that Christians are known to have gone to meet our Lord Jesus Christ in Galilee after the resurrection.
Yeah, it's an historical day, and it speaks to the sacrifice of Jesus Christ and for us to emulate him. And Jesus Christ is adored as not just by Christians but also by Muslim brothers.
Yeah. GKB.
Yeah, it's a day of renewal. Yeah. And it's a lesson that no matter what we do, our Lord is there for us.
All right. Now, as the supporters of the presidential candidates of the Labour Party, popularly called Obedient, continue to heat up the polity, more eminent Nigerians about their false hope regarding the 2023 elections, the chairman of the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, Professor Itse Sagi, says followers of Peter Obi were deceived by opinion polls predicting victory of the party. The senior advocate of Nigeria stressed that he was not surprised by the victory of the candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Bola Tinubu. He dismissed the results of those opinion polls. Said that I saw, a lot of these opinion polls started like a year even to the election, some 6 months to the election, some 3 months to the election, and some internationally, acclaimed journals. And I can quote CNN. CNN gave Mr. Obi a kind of head start of 47% before the presidential election.
I think much also depended on the time the opinion polls were conducted. Before the race started, it's like when you are having a 100-meter race, at the first 1 or 2 seconds, somebody will, shoot up. But at the end of the day, you may not necessarily be the first person to brace the tape. Or let's say a cross-country race, or 400-meter race. The person that starts well may not necessarily be the person that will be the first to, brace the tape. So as at the time the CNN was talking about, Peter Obi, of course, Peter Obi was the main issue on social media, and of course, the CNN, on social media, the CNN will have to rely on social media. They don't have researchers going from one street to the other. And don't also forget that most of the people that have access to social media in Nigeria are mainly, in the south. So one can be deluded to come to that innocent conclusion, So I think you can't really blame most of them. But if you really want to understand the content and form of the projections, you look at the number of people that they met. Some will just tell you that in a poll conducted among 5,000 people. Some will tell you poll conducted. I don't think anyone ever conducted poll that reached up to about 20,000. In a population where you have about 93 million potential voters. So, and the other thing is that when you look at the organizations that are running these polls, go and check their website. Some of them are new organizations established, in the solely for the to drive in a particular perspective. We know,
and some of them have kind of political,
of course, political motive. So if you look at some of them, 1 year old, 2 years old, you know that they were specifically set up, as part of the propaganda mechanism to, project a particular candidate, to the mainstream of Nigerian policy. But at the end of the day, you realize that most of those polls turn out to be false. And it's not only in Nigeria alone, even in the US, where you have some historical organizations that have been conducting polls. Polls are just researches based on random sampling. It will not necessarily come out to reflect the reality on the ground.
Now, when you look at it, you spoke about America, before the Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump presidential election, and then when you look at all opinion polls, we look at most of the leading polling companies,
all of them,
they all give it to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it was a big surprise that Donald Trump...
Don't forget there was a post-election research that was conducted. And the people realized that people at that point in time in America, especially the white male and the white female, differ differently when it comes to the way they view Hillary Clinton. That normally a Democratic candidate of that pedigree, they expected, would have served easily to have won. But there seems to be an aversion by American women to the Hillary Clinton personing. And don't forget, of course, that was also the year that the poll came out, that in 20 years, the American white male will become a minority in America. So a lot of things were coming into play at the same time to force the system to reevaluate itself. So Trump, much like Obi to an extent, is a beneficiary of discontent within the system that were not voiced at the point when these polls were being done. Because they just assume this household is Democratic, they will vote for the Democratic Party. This household is Republican, chances are they will vote for a Republican candidate. But there are so many other underlying factors that came into what happened in America in that year. Something that the system corrected itself 4 years later. So that's what really happened. But coming back to the Nigerian factor, I think most of the polls in Nigeria are flawed because a lot of people suffer from the same thing they suffer when they take pictures of Maroko or Makoko, those dirty areas, to represent Nigeria. It's the same problem that we face in reverse when new people go to America and they just suddenly realize that the gun violence in Chicago kills more people per day than anywhere else in the world. That the number of homeless people in Los Angeles is more than the entire town.
And when you get to New York City, you discover that a place like Queens looks like a marina, looks like Lagos Island.
No, it's a culture shock. So it works both ways.
You want to say, is this America?
So a lot of people who talk to people they assume represent the average Nigerian, which is not true because there is no average Nigerian in the conventional sense of it. For example, in Nigeria, up to recently, 70% of Nigerians live in the rural areas. So only 30% are urbanized, except for the last few years when people are moving because of insecurity and economic opportunities. So imagine talking to 5,000 people in Lagos, 3,000 in Port Harcourt, another 4,000 in Abuja. I use that sample size to judge what Nigerians are talking. If I want to do something, I want to know what Yorubas are thinking. I'll probably go to Ekiti or Ibadan. I will not come to Lagos. And if I want to do the same thing, what the Igbo people are thinking, I will not go to Abuja or Enugu. I'll probably go to a village, Aguleri, or one small village outside there, or go to Umuahia. Because you can only get the true reflection of what people are saying when you go to their most vulnerable parts. If you go to their most competent parts, the areas of their lives, or the parts of their elites, they will give you a false picture of what's going on. So that's what really happened to this. They talk to people they assume represent the ideal Nigeria. And you and I know that's not true.
Now, opinion polls and even presidential debates. Yeah. Now, let's see, once Peter Obi has been rated and those organizations, they kept, saying that, look, it's likely to win, How did that affect the mindsets of Nigerians?
Well, for having presidential debate, it will be interesting for candidates that are new, in the race. But for instance, if you are talking about Asiwaju to many people, to many Nigerians who have been following him since 1992, they can almost predict him, what he will say on politics, on economy. He was governor for 8 years. So people may not really be desperate to listen to new things he actually wanted to say. They already know him. But for somebody like Peter Obi, who is coming probably to that stage for the first time, maybe people really want to know what difference, will it make. So when you are talking about regional debate in Nigeria, we're not saying that it's not going to have an impact or it never had an impact, but I don't think it can be a decisive factor because you have to look at other variables. Look at how did the APC manage to win the 2015 election. It was a conglomeration of different groups, AMPP, a faction of ABGA, a faction of PDP, ACN, CPC. They came together as, a huge block, and then they were able to upstage, the seat, But in this case, for PDP, how many governors moved from APC to PDP in the past 8 years? How many senators moved from APC to PDP in the past 8 years? And then look at the PDP became, divided into factions. A faction of PDP went to Labour Party. A faction of PDP became G5. So you have already divided the party into 3 blocks.
Forgetting Kwakwaso in Kano.
Yeah, Kwakwaso in Kano, So now the Labour Party that we are talking about, votes and all that, is also mainly votes from PDP supporters. That is the truth. Then the G5, that also broke away from PDP. So a party that was already diminished, in size, in the number of states that, the party controls, number of senators, and then you are now having about 3 factions. And then the APC, in spite of the skirmishes within, remained one single whole. You understand the point? So when you look at all these variables, it's just too, simplistic to assume that the APC will be defeated at the presidential race.
Have you gotten to that position yet that, look, these polling agents, polling companies, they will go to the grassroots, go to the far north, go and get those headers to ask their opinion so that you will be able to have a balance with not just staying in Lagos, looking for people that will have access to the computer alone?
Well, we are not there yet, and I doubt whether we'll get there in the nearest future. Because this kind of groundswell only comes up maybe once in a generation. After this, we go back to business as usual. A lot of people will vote according to the way they've always voted. And then we'll go back to where we are. But what I think will happen is this. People seek validation from polls. Not because they work for it, because they assume that's what will happen. Assumptions are now out of the window. And that to me is a very good thing that happened in this electoral cycle. Because once the assumption has to do, the candidate will have to work extra hard. Because a lot of the candidates that worked would not have worked so hard if there had not been new variables coming to the mix. And that to me is the fundamentals of what happened. The polls itself will not change anything. Because you and I know that majority of Nigerians have made up their minds where they are going to go. So it's only very few of us that can be swayed by debates or polls. Because a lot of people base whatever they are going to do on other variables outside those inanities that people work on. So I think what we'll grow into is the fact that people will start to discountenance this elitist idea that we bring into the system as the know-all. That, okay, because Mr. A said so, that was what gave me the win. That's not the way to win. The way to win is to do the grunt work. Send players to the field, send full soldiers to the field, make sure that people come out to vote, that your figures are higher than the next man. Make sure that you protect your votes and protect the results. Because when people shout that something was not done, I keep asking, is there the paper trail of the election? They said yes. Then what's the problem? Because once there's a paper trail from the one in the polling booth to the one that was announced, you have a trail that you can always work with. But a lot of people keep shouting at you, no. The thing was supposed to be uploaded. I said, what for? Would that change anything? Because no matter what you see online, it is the paper signed by the agents that will still be recognized by law whenever they go to the tribunal. That's why I keep people saying in some areas where they were so sure that people took the pictures and went to, and one man sat down to do this, will be exposed at the tribunal at any given time. So I think they were not only misled, they were misinformed and they were misdirected. And most of them don't want to learn and unlearn and relearn to move forward. That to me is the danger.
Yeah. We're talking about the Form ECHA.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the governorship election in Kogi State is fast approaching, and politics in the north-central states is in top gear. The lawmaker representing Ikeja Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives, James Abiodun Faleke, has appealed to the Governor Yaya Bello to allow Kogi West produce his successor in November 22 governorship election. Faleke stressed that zoning a sense of belonging and equity. Gentlemen.
Well, I think okay.
Kogi State is a peculiar state that you have the Galas, you have the Ibiras,
you have Igala, you have Oworo, you have Ogori, you have Igbira.
Okay, I'm talking about the major, the tripods.
The major groups are Igbira,
Igala,
and then the Yoruba, the Okun. So and I think since 1992, when we had SDP, NLC, when Kogi has been producing state governors, the first governor came from Igala. That was Audu. Then since then,
late Abubakar Audu.
Yeah, late Abubakar Audu. Since then up till now, we've had Igala producing, I think, 16 years plus the first 2 years of Governor Audu. That's 18 years.
Not forgetting the demography.
Yeah. No, they are the majority.
Yes, they have the advantage.
52 to 54% in terms of
the voting strength.
Yeah, and I think they have about they have about 9 local governments. You know, the West has about 5 local governments.
About 5.
Then Igbira has about 5 too. You know, then Ogori.
But in terms of numerical strength,
in terms of numerical strength, they have no, the Igala, they have the majority.
And Ibira,
the strength. In terms of strength, poly units, the Igala can decide, in fact, who, at all times, who will be the winner of that race. But I think after having had 18 years, I think it was a good thing. It was by accident that the current governor, Ibrahim, became the governor. If it had been not because of the death of it would have been very difficult, So I think for
another zone.
Yes. But I think for equity, because we are talking about ethnic domination at the national level. When you go to some states, it is worst, even among ethnic minorities. Take Benue State, for instance. It has always been TV producing the governor.
The Domas.
The Domas are there. The Igedes are there from time immemorial. So how would these other ethnic groups fail? Look at what happened in Delta. We have Urobo, we have Ishekiri, we have Isoko, then we have the Ikaibu. But one thing that Ibori did was that he was able to ensure that an Ishekiri person, which has a smaller population, because the Urobos are about, they have the highest number of people, about population about 2 million plus. But Ishekiri, with less than 1 million people, was able to produce the governor of Delta State, Uduaga. In Rivers, the same problem. The Ekwere are a majority, and they have the population to produce the governor at all times. But this time now, it has moved to Opobo by mere consideration of the right, that we should consider the interest of other ethnic groups. So I think for equity, for justice, and for stability, I actually think that having had 18 years, Igala producing the governor in Kogi State, and then Igbira will now have 8 years with Governor Audu there. I think it makes sense that it should go to to Kogi West.
Okay, the person making this case is eminently qualified. He was the running mate to Abubakar Audu in the last election, and all of a sudden, I just read 2 weeks ago that he has pulled out of the race. That's Honorable Falik himself.
Yeah, because I think
because he is from this part we are talking about.
I know the policy of Kogi very well. I know Kogi extremely well, and I know that it will be extremely difficult for a non-Igala person to be governor unless it's negotiated, unless you happen to be at the right place at the right time, just like Akala in Oyo and Yayabilu himself in Kogi.
Ogbomo Shaman.
He took him in by happenstance. Before he now won outright. If not for that,
the dominance of the Ibadan.
It is very difficult for a non-Ibadan person. So even in some states that are fairly balanced, like Ogun State, while the Jebus has a majority, the Egbas also have a substantial number. For the people of Yewa to become governor, we require a lot
consensus.
Engineering
Across.
The last 2 governors have tried very hard to install Yewa governors, but they failed. I think maybe Adane tried, then Amusu tried. If Amusu tried again at this particular level, because it's basically a war. So The thing even goes down to some local governments. Those local governments, certain people, for example, I'll give you a personal example. Because today, in Atisbo local government in Oyo State, became the local government headquarters. When Atisbo was created, the other towns ganged up and decided that would be over their dead body that the Ndiji will become chairman. Because they said they've already had the local government headquarters. So all these parabolations can only work out if there's understanding. Because I know in some areas they will say, okay, you've done 2 terms. Let this ward do another term. Let this one now go to the Senate. Let's one go to the House. That's what they require in Kogi State. It's not really by trying to threaten or to bring out the sense of... Because normally, even at the national level, I don't like the idea that you are operating from a position of weakness and looking for somebody to dash it to you. I keep saying the same thing. I'll say that national, I'll say that states. Let the Kogi West people present a candidate that is acceptable across board, and he will be governor.
Okay.
That to me is key.
Okay. Awan Hassan is just informing me that Falike had to withdraw because he voted in Lagos in the last election. That it's late to transfer his voter card from Lagos to Kogi because Kogi state election will be holding November, and we just had the presidential and governorship election in between February and March. Thank you.
And he also just won the election as a Lagos member.
Yeah, he did that again before. He did that before. He was in the House of Rep.
But he was contesting. It's different from now contesting as himself. He was contesting as a deputy. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, my friend Awan Hassan, for that information. Now, the incumbent governor can, make a very big push for this minority, the Okun people. If you want to do that, look for equity, for justice and everything. But if the governor is not looking at that direction, I wonder if anybody or any party outside the main political party will be able to make that push.
There are 2 dominant political parties in Kogi State, PDP and APC.
Yes.
There is no doubt that the current governor has, stronghold on the party. In fact, a charm grip on the party.
The White Lion.
And there are speculations that he is trying to push either his chief of staff or the auditor general or accountant, or who are also from the same place with him. That has not been confirmed. They are mere speculations. There's also the speculation that he's also pushing someone from Isanlu, who is from Kogi West. I think Ashiwaju Ashiru. Then we also have Smart Adeyemi that will understand. Maybe he's interested.
I don't think he's the candidate of the governor. They fell out.
No, it's not.
It's not. But
it's also.
But Smart is just doing his own capacity.
It's not the candidate of the governor. But I understand the Ashiru and the chief of staff, and then in his consideration. But then, just like he has said, it's not just the governor alone. It needs to also constructive negotiation based on the power blocks, especially the Igala people. If you don't get their buy-in, no matter how strong the governor is, not that he cannot win, but it's going to be more difficult.
Now, it becomes very difficult for the governor now, very, very difficult, looking at his former chief of staff and his deputy governor. These guys are so close, Edward Onoja, and a lot of people will say Edward Onoja is from the Igala speaking part of the state, and is eminently qualified that he might want to throw his hat in the ring. And in case he does that, the governor is going to have it so difficult in deciding who am I going to go for. They're all these guys.
The governor has a major role to play. The party leadership, let me say the party in terms of the delegates conference that we choose. So whoever wants to contest for the governor in APC, first of all, must win the confidence of the party leadership in Kogi State, including the governor. Now, what I think should happen is that if PDP decides to pick somebody from Igala, and APC picks somebody from the Iyagba area, there's going to be a lot of challenges. So what the APC needs to do...
I know Dino Milaye is running.
Of course, it's also running.
PDP.
Under PDP. So what I think the current governor needs to do is to, if he really wants to leave a legacy that a lot of people will admire, to say, okay, we've had 8 years for Ibira, and then 18 years for, Igala. Let this move to other ethnic groups. We have the Okun, we have Ogori. Ogori are also very close, or Woro, in Lokoja, more or less a subgroup of Yoruba. So I think it will be, when you are talking about justice, it has, but then he also needs to look at how he can win, not just about justice alone.
All right.
So that's why he must negotiate.
Okay, Wale, just hold on a bit there. We'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this time out. Please stay with us.
Are you ready to win big? It's Max Millions.
Give me that money. Pay off bills.
We're giving away 1 million naira to our lucky listeners who win a share of the 1 million naira. Tune in to 102.3 Max FM Lagos and 90.9 Max FM Abuja from 6 a.m. Listen up for the winning song, be the 10th caller, beat the clock, and you could win big with Max Millions.
Money. Stop. Okay, he said stop. 25,000 naira. Come on.
Max Millions, only on Max FM.
After a fruitful Ramadan day, replenish your body with the right nutrients. Make this your best Ramadan yet. Ramadan Kareem from Hollandia Dairy and Chivita Fruit Juice.
The Easter Monday edition of Journalist Hangout, and I still have Gani Kaide Balogun in the studio and Adewale Adeoye. We're looking at the influence of the incumbent governor, because when you look at the results for the election, and Mayastic is based on that, the House of Assembly election and the House of Representatives, the presidential election that we just concluded, you could see that it succeeded in showing that it's firmly in control of that state. It sent a strong signal, and it's meant to have will play a very big role in choosing who to succeed him. If the People's Democratic Party, if they put their house together, I don't know if they will be able to give the APC a run for their money. But as I saw a press conference now, people urging the candidate of the PDP, not that's Vice President, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, not to impose Dino Melaye on them, that they have their own candidates, and they started this internal wrangling as usual. So within the APC, now let's look at the governor's path.
Well, the governor of Kogi State has in the last 8 years asserted himself as a typical Nigerian political godfather, because he booked no opposition as was witnessed 4 years ago during his return leg, and he wanted to return to the governor's house. And because APC will remain at the center, APC will control the House of Assembly, chances are all things being equal, is the governor's candidate. All things being equal, that will emerge as the next governor of Kogi State. Being that as it may, it must not fly against reason that Wale has already enunciated, basically about the ethnic colorization of the states. A very popular Galaman can withstand the governor's power and another party, if not well managed. Just like a very weak Galaman.
That did not happen during the last election.
Precisely. When
you felt the second time of Yarabelu was shaky, but he confronted the Gala people and he was able to win the election.
That's what I said. There are things you cannot even see on television about what happened in Kogi. But one thing Yaya had going for him was the fact that he was able to blend all the minorities together. There was a time we were in Kogi for a business trip, and those people we met were basically across the board. The SSG was a woman, and a Kogi, an Okun woman, and the woman in charge of works. So Okun people said they never did so good until they got under Yaya Bello. I mean, maybe they are interested parties. So I think all things being equal, may probably look in that direction, basically to create a legacy to see what he can do. But having said that, like I said earlier, it depends on the kind of opposition that is coming from the PDP. If they present a weak or an unpopular person, even if it's from Okun, chances are the governor's candidate will emerge victorious. Because all the dogs seems to be lining up in a row for that to happen.
So anybody formidable from Okun apart from Faleke that obviously is out of the contest?
I think if Faleke had the opportunity to run, it would have been, in fact, a monumental intervention. So anybody that wants to come up now is somebody that really need to build his credentials. But I think that anybody that comes from Okun land will have overwhelming support from that area. Because they've never
that area.
But now depends on how they are able to negotiate with other ethnic blocks, across board. And I think a good governor should be able to do that without any problem.
This rotational thing, where has it gotten us in this country?
Well, you see, ethnic interest is also part of the context of political. It's also part of the political interest. In America, blacks are talking about their own interest.
APC succeeded with it with the agitation for the Southern presidency.
We are talking about credit. We are talking about the best person and all that, but it's not a traditional stool. It's only for one family. It has to go around. You can't say because we have the best, person from Yoruba land. Let him be the president. Let's just leave him. Because Awolowo. After some time, people ask questions. Does it mean we also don't have good people in our own area? So I think it's also a legitimate demand when people are saying that power should also come to them.
All right, moving on now. The opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, is yet to come to terms with losing the 2023 presidential election. The senator representing Ebonyi Central at the National Assembly, Obinna Ogba, said the PDP deserved to lose the elections because of management of its affairs by the National Working Committee, NWC. Senator Ogba explained that the NWC shot itself in the foot by giving tickets to wrong candidates. This is quite indicting. It's as if everybody within the People's Democratic Party now, if you check, Governor Ayefayoshe was all out.
Yeah.
Even campaigning from some APC candidates. Ayefayoshe was all out, frontally, discrediting and demarketing his own political party. I think the center cannot hold it.
You remember that when we hosted Dino Malaye on this program, I asked him that question. Why is PDP flying against popular expectation? Why can't the tickets go down south? And he was telling us they have to win first before whatever, But this has shown that people care about things like this. They care about divisions, they care about representation, and they care, the people in PDP have shown that. The governors on the APC, other governors have shown that as well. That sometimes you have to subdue your individual interests or the group interest. Because like you said on this program many times, imagine Atiku not contesting. Imagine a scenario where PDP bow to the popular assertion that power should come to the south. And we are facing an unpopular administration that has just changed the naira where fuel is scarce. Despite that, they won. And that's simply because people expected all over Nigeria that power should go to the south. In whatever shape or form, they may not know. But they just assume that the major players at that point in time should be southerners. And by buckling the trend, PDP split into 4, or 3. Solely because of that, no other reason. Because Kwankwaso will have followed the popular will if party has put their foot down that this thing is going to the south. And nobody else can change that. Once that has been resolved, every other good things will follow. That's why I said this is just medicine after death. Because we all know, it's not rocket science, that this is what's going to happen if you don't put your house in order. The split was into 4 or 3. They could not bring back people that they sent away. They could not manage simple matter of working with your governors. And this is where we end up. So expect this to come up more and more after the final judgment of the Supreme Court, whichever way it goes. This level of recriminations and killing will continue until the next election. And now they've learned their lesson. Because if they should do it again in 2017, as they say, madness is what? Insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
I think the People's Democratic Party, they will really need to sit down and rebrand that party. Yeah. Because when you look at the statistics, I just went through this course, even the candidates in Lagos State, since 1999, he had 69,000 votes, and that's quite abysmal. And they've never performed that as woeful as that in this state since 1999. There are some states, when you go to Kano State and you look at the score of the People's Democratic Party, you know, and meanwhile, they did well in some other core northern states, but against PDP won. And
almost the entire northeast.
Do you understand? But those areas that you think that, oh, they will do well, they didn't do well. And if you look at the total figure, you discover that, look, this is a party that is not like the oldest party that has been established since 1998.
I think PDP has the best opportunity any party could have in this country. But the party mismanaged the opportunity. It came to power as a formidable organization, a formidable political party in 1999. And in fact, its leaders were boasting that they were going to rule for 60 years. And of course, the first 16 years of democratic experience in this country, the PDP was in charge, fully in charge. But I think the party could not understand the changing dynamics, you know, in the political space. And it could not reorganize itself to meet.
Let me quick pick this call. Olaya is calling us from Abuja. Thank you for joining us, Olaya.
Yeah. Good evening, and I would like to make my contributions.
Go ahead, Olaja.
Yeah. Good evening, and I would like to make my contributions. Actually, firstly, on the base of the PDP, how they were able to lose the elections in the just concluded elections. However, there are many things that affected in the PDP, which caused their losing. And however, let me start from here. And they have a lot of issues which started from their primaries. If you look at the mechanisms, how the primaries were being conducted. And even though, if you look back, prior to convention, prior to their presidential conventions, if you look at the party conventions, which produces the chairman, the IU. And fortunately, IU was the chairman, and he made a statement that if at all that the candidate emerges from the north, him is going to relinquish his positions, which were the statements being held by the G5 governors, which led by the governor of Rivers State. And that's the first thing. And the second thing is that when, even in 2019, I think it's 2019 PDP that started getting it wrong. Because in 2019, if you look at the campaigns of the presidential campaign, no of the PDP governors were even following the campaigns, were even following their presidential campaigns.
All right, you have your time. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. So we're talking about a party that came with a lot of promises.
Lots of opportunities. But when you look at what has happened in the past, since they left power, there is a kind of promiscuous poacher of his leadership. Very flirtatious. The former president, 2015, tore his PDP card. The vice president, Abubakar Atiku, he moved from PDP to APC. The last president, on that PDP platform, almost became the presidential candidate of the APC. Jonathan, people went to him all over. So now,
so we couldn't even say at what point in time did he?
One of their major leaders in Lagos State here, Chief Bode George, was in Labour Party this last election. So where are those founding fathers of PDP? The party is almost like an orphan, like, a car without an engine. Because those who founded this party since 1998, where are they? So if there are no moral models, if there are no national figures,
G34,
you know, where are they?
Professor Jerry Ghana,
All of them, where are they? They've left. So who are those people that are now claimed they are the main stakeholders, you know, in that party? And that's why this last election, there was that assumption that political traditions will always remain the same. Voting pattern will almost remain the same. So I thought that, you know, at the party leadership should have looked at the changing sociology, changing pattern, you know, at the mood of Nigerians. That people wanted power to come back to the south. But they were adamant. Imagine if Atiku, if we have had Peter Obi and someone else, let's say even Atiku and Peter Obi, or Obi and someone else, combine the votes of Labour Party and PDP, you will have seen that APC will have been in trouble. But they never did that. So everybody was just fighting for its own ambition. You know, so, you know, and you see, they usually abandon the party and come back only about maybe 6 months before the election. And, you know, running a party means it's an institution. You need to build it consistently. It shouldn't be a seasonal thing. That's only when there's an election, then you come back together and then start talking about the party. So I think they are not careful. The party is on its last trip to the cesspool of history. Unless there are genuine people that come back to say, okay, let's bury our differences. Look at Wike, a very strong lion like that. You trim aside, you know, it doesn't matter. Look at the governor of Oyo State. Look at the governor of Benue. These are very, you know, important people that have strategic importance to the party. You say they don't matter. The party chairman argued that was supposed to have left. So look at how he now left after the election. So at the critical moment that you need to leave that seat, you sat down there. To leave you know, causing a lot of division, a lot of crisis. So I think the PDP is its own albatross. It's its own major problem. And unless there are genuine people that come back and say, look, we have messed up this thing, let us come back together. If not, the party will destroy itself. And at the end of the day.
In terms of a party that can, you know, stand, you know, face to face with the All Progressive Congress, it's just this PDP in terms of reach, in terms of network, in terms of, you know, membership. They are not putting that strength. That's why you have a fragment in NNPP, have another one in Labour Party, you have them all over.
For two reasons. You must understand that PDP is essentially a vehicle to get power by people who thought they own Nigeria. I call them Board of Nigerian PLC. And you and I know that the Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu presidency will be the first time that the military interests in our politics will not be as profound as it was in 1999, 2003, 2007. Not only because
those retired generals,
not because most of them are really getting out of, they are very old now. Most of them are on wheelchair. Also because sooner or later, the young thugs will ask questions and they will move forward to take power. And the same thing will apply to the Asiwaju generation as well. Sooner or later, people of our generation too will ask, why can't we do it? And then those, it's a generational thing. Young people will always assume power, whether you want to let go or not. So I think the problem with PDP is the fact that they were so sure of their pedigree that they don't think they need to work hard to earn that name. The just as it's PDP now, we always win. The North will always be with us. The East will always be with us. Well, the East is no longer with them. They found a new husband. And the North is divided along the religious line, which to me is dangerous, but which is also the reality that we face as a people. So for PDP to be relevant now, the umbrella philosophy must come back to also mean fairness. Because nobody in his right mind will tell you that what happened this year with the way Atiku emerged was in any way justifiable or fair. And that's why they have the battle that they had. Because if something is on the platter for you for the picking, and then you decide to become petty, and now you share the spoils, things like this will happen to everybody.
We'll take this break again. When we come back, we'll talk more.
My name is Mary Jolie and I am from Ogun State, but I'm based in Lagos. I've just recently taken a trip to Ibadan, and in returning, I decided to take the train. So I said, I'm not so sure, but I'm willing to try.
We thank God that the commencement of this present administration, railway was a very, very low ebb.
Be the most seamless journey I've had since I've been in Nigeria. For example, the train left on time. I was not expecting it to leave on time. 8 a.m., we were on the move. I think it's an amazing alternative to being on the road, especially with just the traffic. It's quite intense, there's insecurity, and it would be amazing to see the government invest a bit more into more trains going into other cities and states. It would really free up the congestion that takes place on the road and leisure type of experience within Nigeria.
Thank you for staying with us. The Senate presidency is now the next battle in the political scene in Nigeria, as many candidates are already jostling for the job. A pro-democracy group, the quintessential professionals in politics, has urged aspirants seeking to become the Senate president from the northern part of the country to emulate the senator representing Niger East Senatorial District by supporting the All Progressive Congress APC zoning arrangement in the interest of peace, fairness, and justice. The national chairman of the group, Ibrahim Abubakar, admitted that the election of National Assembly presiding officers is basically based on ranking, competence, character, and experience, but there is need to consider ethnic and religious sentiment in the whole process. Wale, we just left, the 2023 presidential election. Now we're going to the politics of the leadership of the National Assembly, and this will be the 10th Assembly, and people are already a lot of permutations, and Ojikalu, that the other time says Milokon, that is his own turn, that it's the turn of the Southeast, and a lot of other zones, but the party is yet to come out.
Yeah, with a zoning formula.
I think the reality is that whatever we are having now is a shadow boxing. The party is yet to meet and then to decide on the zoning pattern. But I think we can guess, and also as Nigerians, it's also not out of place if we express our feelings. The position of the Senate president is going to be the third most influential person, in the country, apart from the president, the vice president, then the Senate president. Now you have the president from the Southwest, then you have the vice president from the Northeast. It's logical, to assume that the Senate president should come not from the Southwest, not from the Northeast, not from the North entirely, but at least from South-South or Southeast. That is the perception, from our own understanding, as voters. Yes. but I also think that in terms of sensibility, looking at the hate and the bad blood generated by faith issues and all that, it may also be reasonable, to consider somebody
with the division.
Of a different faith, to occupy that position. But that in politics, there are, some politicians that are, desperately arrogant. They will tell you, no, it's not important, and they will justify it with very good arguments. But we all know that to ensure that this country remains stable, to ensure that you continue to sustain public trust, you have to look at these issues. They are very important issues. So I think what the senator is saying, I support him. I believe that the person that should be the Senate president, they should be considering somebody from the South-South or somebody from the Southeast, at least in order to assuage, nerves, and also to ensure that we reflect equity and, of course, national character, which is also in the Constitution. So we are looking towards a situation where, if it comes to voting, they can be defeated. But we are talking about equity, we are talking about justice, we are talking about fairness, and we are talking about peace, which is our highest goal. Peace and justice, which is our highest goal, irrespective of whether, whatever we're thinking about. So I think we are looking towards, so I think what the senator has said is something that the party should consider in order to have some level of understanding in the country.
GKB, I think the political party will, the party will play a very big role in the emergence of anybody that want to, take over that seat. And when I'm talking about the party, the leadership of the party and the president right now, because I think we've left that era that the president will be aloof, or we've left that era that some guys will go and be lodged in the National Assembly overnight and they'll sleep there, and the next day a meeting will be called in the International Conference Center, and the party is divided, and one Month will emerge as the Senate president. The person in charge now is somebody that understands the dynamics of politics, so it's going to be very difficult for anybody to just use the back door to get to that seat.
I think that's why the party is waiting for the president-elect to come back. So they can present their own position, they can present his own position, and they can now harmonize way forward. What you said that is not possible is possible. Don't forget that both the vice president and the speaker were from the same Southwest. And the dynamics that threw up Femi Gbajabiamila went beyond the Southwest presenting vice president. It's basically a payback for a man that was cheated when it was his turn to become speaker. So all this may also come into play when they are doing this. Personally, I have no dog in the fight. I think whoever the president thinks can work with, that can take the people along and solve our problems as a country and for it. Because we have very serious problems that we need very serious people to tackle.
We claim that the 8th National Assembly, that they were quite cantankerous, they weren't working with the executive.
Yeah.
And so, some people would tell you that the 9th Assembly is like a rubber stamp assembly, that we kept borrowing and they kept approving, we kept borrowing and they kept approving. What do we need?
Well,
the ideal assembly that we need.
Is very difficult to please people. When you come with this argument, they tell you, why, this rubber stamp. Then when when the National Assembly is now fighting the presidency, they say, oh, they are not. I think one thing you cannot take away from President Buhari is semi-principle of non-interference in the National Assembly affairs. Even in terms of state governors, how many times would we have whether he wanted to remove a governor at all costs, like what happened, in 2023, 2000 and all that, the first 8 years of PDP. So I think he actually had that principle of non-interference. For me, I think for democracy to work, I think that is a plus, that you have a National Assembly that understands your policies, that can accept your policies, that can harmonize your policies in order to have smooth running of a government. But don't also forget that it was not every bill that was passed to the National Assembly that was signed. There were some that were, that the National Assembly did not, agree. But they don't need to do that by throwing stones or climbing through the, and forcing their ways to the National Assembly or shouting and abusing the president. There were areas of fundamental disagreements between the president and the National Assembly these past 8 years. But the form of disagreement and the way those issues were tackled was what made the difference. So I don't think we can rightly say that, the National Assembly was a rubber stamp. I think they worked together, and I think it was a good. And I also hope that I'm looking towards a situation where we are going to have a National Assembly that will disagree based on honor, based on principle, not just based on the fact that we want to fight, and create problems for the country.
Wale Adeoye, I want to thank you. Thank you for your contribution. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11 p.m. Join us every Sunday for Journalist Hangout on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Ozubaku. Bye for now.
Is a paid presentation by ShopX TV. Do you struggle with having an active and healthy lifestyle due to your busy schedule? Do you find it difficult to make it to the gym? You want to improve your overall health, but don't know where and how to start? Medical experts agree that walking and jogging are among if there was a convenient and affordable way to improve your health, improve your mood, and lose weight right in your own home. Introducing the SportX Digital Compact Treadmill. The compact foldable treadmill that makes being active and losing weight fast and easy. Just unfold it and walk, jog, or run while you watch your favorite programs on TV. And when you're done, just fold it and store it away. Now that's convenience. The secret is its advanced design that houses a 1-horsepower motor that is twice the size of most treadmills, packed into a nice compact unit, powering every step you take. You get the SportX Digital Compact Treadmill System complete with a rugged commercial-grade ultra-durable traction belt, large LCD multifunctional display that displays speed, time, distance, calories, and has 12 different exercise programs, as well as a magnetic safety key for added security.
The SportX treadmill has really helped me get back in shape. After childbirth, I love it because it's compact and can fit anywhere in the house. And when I'm done, I fold and put it away. Easy peasy.
This is the best piece of equipment for people like me who want to stay active without leaving the home. I simply unfold it and use it while I watch my favorite program on TV.
Joining a gym can cost an absolute fortune, and you could be paying up to 600,000 naira in annual gym fees. Get the SportX treadmill to save the cost and work out from the convenience of your home. You could pay 500,000 naira for a treadmill like this, but you can get the SportX treadmill for not 400,000 naira, not even 300,000 naira. Order right now and get this for just 264,950 naira only. But wait, there's more. If you order now, you get the SportX Digital Compact Treadmill delivered to you for free wherever you are in Nigeria. And it comes with a ShopX 30-day money-back guarantee. Hurry, limited stock available. So, call the number on your screen now or visit our website to place your order while stock lasts. The proceeding was a paid presentation brought to you by ShopX TV.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Thanks for joining us on TVC News at 6. We are staying on the security situation in Zamfara State, where police have killed 2 suspected armed bandits, while others fled with gunshot wounds. Spokesperson of the State Police Command, Mohammed Shehu, said tactical operatives repelled attack by gunmen who attempted to invade another community near Wanzamai village, where several persons were kidnapped over the weekend. The Zamfara Police Command also gave assurance that it is collaborating with sister agencies to improve security in the state. Meanwhile, Zamfara state government says it will not succumb to pressure by bandits to withdraw military personnel deployed to Wanzamai and other troubled areas in the state. The State Commissioner for Security, Maman Safi, insisted that bandits cannot intimidate the government to change its security plans. This development comes after reports revealed that abductors of some women in Wanzamai village in Safi local government area are demanding ransom for their release. There have been conflicting figures of kidnapped persons. Residents believe that more than 80 persons were kidnapped, but the police insist only 9 persons were abducted. Still on security matters, the former deputy governor of Nasarawa State, Onje Gewado, has been released by his abductors. He was released last night after a sustained pressure from security operatives. The police public relations officer, Ramhan Nansel, who confirmed his release, said he has been reunited with his family. Onje Gewado was abducted on Friday night by gunmen who invaded his residence in Wamba Local Council. Away from security matters, the governor of Taraba State, Darius Ishaku, has apologized to residents who he may have offended during his 8 years in office. The governor spoke at a Thanksgiving service organized by Christian leaders in the state. Our correspondent Olabi Adenusi was there.
According to data released by Nigeria's Debt Management Office, Taraba is one of the states with the lowest debt profile at 87 billion naira. The Shako administration has done so much to transform the state in the areas of infrastructure, education, health, water, and agriculture without borrowing despite inheriting more than 60 billion naira debt.